Today I'm going to be showing you how to cook a quick pot roast in one pan with all the vegetables and a quick gravy. First though, I'm going to show you guys how to pick the perfect piece of meat for this type of roast. So here we have a nice cut of meat. We have a good slab of fat here in the bottom. That's going to be real nice when we start caramelizing later. And we also have a good series of marbling going on the actual piece. This tells me that there's lots of packets of fat inside, which will be good for releasing lots of juices and flavor throughout the cooking. There's also a bit of a darker red tint on the top here, and that's good because it shows me that it's been dry aging in the meat department, which is something that I look for when I pick out a slice of meat, because it adds to the flavor and complexity of the overall dish. Now to start a recipe like this one, first thing you want to do is get some oil nice and hot. After you've got that, you want to take your meat and lay it right down inside. Now the goal here is to cook it for a couple minutes on each side. That way you get a nice brown caramel shell. And this is going to trap all the flavors of the meat. As you can see, there's a nice golden brown ring around that fat I was talking about earlier. That's exactly what we want. Now while this is searing, we'll go ahead and start cutting up our vegetables. For our vegetables, I have a whole onion, a few baby carrots, I have a couple potatoes I have left to peel. Now for our spices, I have dill, garlic, basil, pepper, salt, paprika, and that's pretty much it. All of them are about a tablespoon each, just enough to give us flavor inside the roast. So we'll go ahead and start cutting this up. A nice white onion. Now what I did with the meat earlier is that I took it off the heat. This way it slows down the cooking and doesn't overcook before we get it in with all of our vegetables. Cut off the top of your onion. And then we're just going to do kind of a rough chop. That way the chunks are nice and big. Go ahead and throw in some carrots. I got some miniature potatoes here. We're just going to throw those in too. Go ahead and sprinkle in all your spices. Should look something like that. Now, the key thing is to remember to put your fat down. This way the heat melts it and blends it in with all the other vegetables. Now I'm going to just fill it up with a little bit of warm water, just enough to cover the vegetables. Later this will serve as your gravy. And just as a little extra touch, I take a nice healthy strip of bacon, maybe two. Just lay those right on top. Gives you a little extra flavor. Now once you have it on a high boil like this, you'll start noticing that it smells amazing. You're going to let it simmer for a few minutes, and then you're going to slow the heat down again to real low. You just want it to cook for a long period of time. After you've seen it simmer down, and you've got this nice billow of steam forming, you're going to cover the pot and let it sit for a few hours. One other way you could do this is to turn your oven on to about 350, 400 and do the same process. I'm going to leave mine on stovetop and I'm going to check it every 20 minutes. Afterward, I'm going to put a meat thermometer in and make sure that my roast is done. And as soon as it hits the peak temperature, we're taking it out. Okay, so it's been sitting for about 3 hours now. As you can see, I've taken it off the heat and moved it away from the whole burner itself. And if you look at your thermometer, well done beef for us at 170, and we're pretty above that over at 190. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of the pot, let it sit and cool and finish cooking, and then we'll make our gravy. Now while your meat's cooling, it's actually finishing up the cooking process. So that's why we completely take it off the heat, otherwise you just continue to cook and then be overdone. What I like to do is take my meat thermometer and poke your potatoes. If it goes all the way through and comes out clean, they're all done. And if you see that, it clumped. So you gotta get in there with your whisk and really mix it up. Now we've been reducing this for about 5 minutes. Basically we want to narrow it down a lot to really get that gravy consistency. At this point I wouldn't add any more flour. Just let all the water boil out. Save us just a nice fat, greasy little tidbits from the meat. And then you're basically done. We'll do the other half of this here in a minute, and then I'll be able to show you guys what it looks like all finished. Now we've been reducing this for about 5 minutes. Basically we want to narrow it down a lot to really get that gravy consistency. At this point I wouldn't add any more flour. Just let all the water boil out. Save us just a nice fat, greasy little tidbits from the meat. And then you're basically done. And the final plate. That's with the fresh gravy. I add a little bit of salad. All in all, it looks pretty good. So there you have it. Quick pot roast, one pan, and a tiny kitchen. Hope this inspires you guys to subscribe to this channel. We'll be doing one of these every week. New recipe, and we're definitely open for suggestions. So be sure to leave your comments, ideas, and subscribe. I'm gonna start eating this. Pretty good. You're missing out. I freaking love gravy. You have no idea.